Year 6, how are you doing? This week in maths, we are going to be carrying on with fractions. And I think the whole team wanted to just say to you that we're really chuffed with the work you've been doing with fractions. I know you know that this is all revision work. We're not actually doing anything new here, but it's very good for overlearning. And fractions, I don't know why, I love fractions, but fractions are one of those areas of maths that some children don't feel very confident with. So we thought it would be a perfect opportunity to take your time and go over it again before we all return back to school. So we're going to be carrying on with different challenges within fractions. I'm going to share my screen with you now. Righty-ho, here we go. So I'm on the wrong slide already. Let's get back to the beginning. What we're doing this week is the first one thing we're going to do is we're going to be looking at multiplying fractions by integers. So question number 1, and you can shout at me at the screen, what is an integer? Think about it. What is an integer? I hope you're right. An integer is a whole number. So fractions are not integers, they are not whole numbers. So you're going to have a fraction and you're going to multiply it by a whole number. Now, there are different types of fractions you can multiply them by. You could multiply a unit fraction by an integer. What's a unit fraction? Want to hear you shout. Okay, unit fraction is a fraction that has a numerator of 1. So, for example, give me an example of a unit fraction. Yep, half, quarter, third. So we're going to start off quite simply with multiplying unit fractions by integers. After that, we're going to move on to non-unit fractions. Ooh, let me think. What possibly could be a non-unit fraction? Exactly, 2/3, 3/4, where the numerator is more than 1. And then we're going to go on and multiply, wait for it, the excitement, mixed numbers by integers. What's a mixed number, everybody? Oh, I hear you shout, 1 2/3. Exactly, when you have a whole number and a fraction. Right. We have had a really good look at these white rose videos, and we've decided that we're going to use them a lot with fractions because they're very visual and they break it down into really small steps. So we think that's fantastic. So there's lots of white rose videos which we would like you to watch before you do the activities. However, as we've said on previous presentations, it says at the end, go and do the white rose worksheet. Well, we've basically got some different questions from different places and put them together for our own progression of questions. But it's a little bit different on this first video because we want you to watch the whole thing up until 6 minutes, 6.05 as it says here on this slide. And then we want you to have a go at the questions that we have written. And then the last question is question number, I think it's number 6, which is really challenging, but it's fantastic. And we'd really like you all to have a go at it because it will really get you thinking. And that's what we want you to do. We want to get you thinking. It is a bit challenging. So if you find it quite challenging, then go back to the white rose video. It refers to it as being question 9 in the white rose video, just to confuse you. But it does mean this question 6. And it takes you through step by step how to do it. So have a go initially on your own, but then if you are finding it too challenging, refer back to the video. You can also refer back to the video when you have done this problem, just to see if they took a different approach and to check your approach. That'd be fabulous. And don't forget that within these white rose videos, there are, in fact, little questions that they will get you to do as you go along. So make sure you have got a pen and your paper ready to do these questions. And the only other thing I would like to ask you to do is, would you please write the whole equation out when you do your answers? Because if you just write the answer down and submit it to us, it's very difficult to us to work out which questions you're referring to. So, top tips from Mrs. Hattrick. Let's quickly run through each of the questions you're going to do. Once you've watched the video, we'd like you then to go through a series of questions. Here's our question 1, which is very straightforward, and it's got a lovely model, a visual model here of the question, and it's also using a number line to support you. So please write out the equations in full. So this would be 3, which is your integer, multiplied by 3/10, non-unit fraction. This question here, you might think, oh, come on, Mrs. Hatchett, this is a bit easy. I really want you to think about what you're doing here. 1/3 multiplied by 1, 1/3 multiplied by 2. As you see, these are all unit fractions. They're all to do with a third. I like you to think so it really embeds actually what is going on as you get more and more thirds, so you can see the patterns. Also, I'd like you to simplify your answers. So let's think about it. 1/3 multiplied by 5, I'm telling you now, it's going to be an improper fraction. So I'd like you to simplify that into a mixed number. Then you can see here, the next on B, you are doing non-unit fractions, so 3/4 multiplied by an integer. This is your integer. Now, just in terms of a bit of terminology as well, we call this number the number you are multiplying the number by as your divisor, okay? So 1 is your divisor here, 2 is your divisor here, 3 is your divisor, because that comes up later on in your work. Right, question 3, as I said, once you've done unit fractions and then non-unit fractions, you then come on to mixed numbers by a whole integer. And then here, very simply, there are some missing numbers. So you're just having to think, change your approach to how you're working the questions out. You're going to have to work slightly backwards here. Please, as I've written here, I've also spelt it wrong, which is a bit embarrassing. I'm going to do it. There we go. Please, can you write out the whole equation, not just the missing numbers, and the same with these, so we can see your written answer. And here is this exactly the same concept as you've been doing, but this is just put into rather than an equation like this, it has been put into a word problem. And all we would like you to do here is to read that, write it as an equation and work it out. Then this is the question number 6. I'll read it to you. Jack builds a tower using grey blocks. Here we go. Alex builds a tower using red blocks. Here we go. The towers are exactly the same height. So when they've built, with Alex's tower is exactly the same height as Jack's tower, although the blocks are different sizes. How many blocks could they each have used? So there's a really gnarly, lovely problem there. Have a little think about it. You might want to start drawing and thinking about all the different approaches you've been using. If you're not sure, you're really not sure, then refer back to the video here. As I said, start at 6:05 and then it'll take you through. Otherwise, if you'd like to have a go, have a crack, which I really recommend you do, have a go and then go refer back to the video to see if they use a different approach. Because remember, in maths, there's not necessarily, well, it's often multiple different ways of doing a calculation or solving a problem, but what we're wanting to do is always find the most efficient, or as I used to say in my class, the most elegant way of doing it. Right, enjoy multiplying fractions by integers.